The conflict in Ukraine continues. This is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Rob, and joining me to talk about the language being used in the headlines about this story is Roy. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Rob, and hello, everyone. Now, Russia is continuing to attack Ukraine after launching a devastating attack last week. Russian troops have taken over parts of eastern Ukraine and are attempting to control the country's capital, Kyiv. But Ukrainian forces are offering strong resistance. As the number of dead climbs, President Putin stands accused of shattering peace in Europe.
Yeah, well, the situation is changing fast, but we're going to look at 3 words and expressions from current news headlines that can help you understand how the conflict is being reported in English. What are your 3 words and expressions, Roy?
We have spiral, free fall, and rising to.
That's spiral, free fall, and rising to. Okay, let's have a look at your first news headline, please.
Okay, so our first headline comes from Relief Web, and it reads: Crisis in Ukraine could spiral into widespread humanitarian catastrophe.
That spiral, quickly become worse.
Okay, so spiral is spelled S-P-I-R-A-L, and it is being used as a verb, and it means to quickly become or get worse.
I've heard about this word spiral in terms of a shape. It's lots of circles together, isn't it?
That's correct. Now let's talk about that idea of spiral as a shape. So it's basically circles going round and round. Now we talk about it in terms of a spiral staircase. So it's a staircase that you walk down and it goes round and round and round. And we also have notebooks that have a spiral bound notebook that have these kind of metal circles that keep all of the pages together. That's the idea of a spiral, or as an adjective, spiral staircase, spiral bound book. But we're not talking about the shape in the headline, we're talking about a situation. And if a situation spirals, it means that it is getting worse very, very quickly.
So we can talk about prices spiraling, the price of oil spiraling. It's getting worse, the situation's getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about those prices in a second, but when we talk about a spiraling situation, for example, an argument between 2 people, if it gets worse and worse and worse, the argument starts off small and it just becomes incredibly big, we can say it's spiraling out of control. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Now, you talked there about prices, price of things. When we talk about the price of things spiraling, we often mean that the price is increasing and going up very, very rapidly. So you talked about the price of oil. Now the situation is worse because things are more expensive, but the price spiraling or spiraling out of control means that it is becoming very expensive very quickly.
Thanks for that, Roy. Let's have a summary. Let's have a look at your second headline now, please, Roy.
Okay, so our second headline is from The Telegraph, and it reads: Panic in Russia as economy in freefall.
That's free fall, uncontrolled drop in value or strength.
Okay, so freefall is commonly seen in dictionaries as 2 words. F-R-E-E, second word F-A-L-L. But you will and you can see it in some cases as 1 word, for example, in the headline, and it's commonly used as 1 word in the expression in free fall. And what it means is that something is falling very, very quickly or dropping very, very quickly without control.
A literal meaning, I guess, would be somebody with a parachute. If they jumped out of an aeroplane with a parachute, they would drop down. They would free fall, wouldn't they? They would drop down, gravity pulling them down to the earth.
Yeah, commonly when you're talking about that, it's before they open their parachute. So they don't open their parachute and they jump and they just fall, free fall. There is nothing to stop them falling. When they open their parachute, they're no longer in free fall. But we're not talking about the literal meaning of free fall here. We're talking sort of more about prices and things like this, or in the case of the headline, the economy in free fall. It is dropping, the value of something is dropping very, very quickly.
Sometimes we can say dropping like a stone as well.
Yeah, commonly when you're talking about the value of something, for example, stocks or shares, if shares on the stock market just fall very rapidly, the value of them fall, we can say it's dropping like a stone, because obviously a stone is very heavy and it drops. But we wouldn't normally say the economy is dropping like a stone. It's normally for individual things.
And just to clarify then, to free fall, it's kind of non-stop. It can't be stopped.
Absolutely. There's nothing that you can do to stop it, or that's the feeling that it's out of control. The drop is just out of control and you can't stop it falling.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Roy. Let's have a summary. Okay, Roy, can we now have a look at your third headline, please?
Okay, so our third headline comes from BBC News, and it reads, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, the comedian president who is rising to the moment.
Rising to, working hard to overcome a difficult situation.
Okay, so this is rising to. It is a phrasal verb. First word rising, second word to, to. Now, if you rise to something, it basically means that you make a lot of effort to meet a challenge or a problem or a situation, to overcome that situation.
So here we're talking about the Ukraine's president, who used to be an actor and comedian. Now he's working hard to protect the freedom of his country, I guess.
Yeah. So the moment that we're talking about, the rising to the moment in this sense, is the attack on Ukraine. And we talk about, commonly we hear this expression, rise to the challenge. So it's doing something that you wouldn't normally do to kind of overcome this situation.
And there's another phrasal verb when you rise to something, isn't there? When we react to something in a way that someone wants you to. So, especially by becoming angry, they're trying to get a reaction from you, and you might rise to it.
Yeah. Now this is a slightly different meaning. If you continually try to provoke me, and you try to make me angry, and I stay calm, but eventually I just kind of snap, then I rise to it. I rise to your kind of provocations. However, in the headline, we're not talking about me becoming angry or somebody becoming angry. We're talking about meeting a challenge. There is a challenge or a situation that needs to be overcome, that needs to be dealt with. For example, in the headline, it's talking about the attack, and the president and the country is rising to that situation. They are meeting that challenge.
Can we sometimes say you're stepping up to the challenge as well?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's have a summary then. Okay, Roy, it's time now for you to recap the words and expressions we've discussed today.
Okay, so we had spiral, quickly become worse. We had free fall, uncontrolled drop in value or strength. And we had rising to, working hard to overcome a difficult situation.
Thanks, Roy. Now, as I said, the situation is changing rapidly, and these were the news headlines at the time of recording this programme. And we've reached the end of News Review for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us again next time. Bye for now.
Bye.